The rapid fire round. The first one is, at what age do you want to retire?
I don't know, 65, I guess.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
20 minutes.
Favorite color?
Framboise.
What time of day are you most inspired?
In the morning.
How do you relax?
Oh, reading and cooking.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Paris.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
5.
A habit of yours that you hate.
Pass.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Being patient with people.
One word description of your leadership style.
Cooperative.
Top priority in your daily schedule.
Getting things done.
Ideal vacation spot for relaxation.
Oh, a small house in Greece on an island.
Key factor for maintaining a work-life balance.
Having clear schedules.
Memorable career milestone.
Being elected to the European Parliament in 2019.
All right, so that was the end of the rapid fire round. Now we can go on to the longer questions, which you can answer with as much ease and time as you like. Okay, so the first one is, how can societal acceptance of drones be increased?
I think it's important that people see drones and they see the positive effects of drones. For example, in my home region, drones are used in order to rescue farms. So this is a very positive impact on the society, and there's people love it. They love to see it. They go there in order to see how the farms are rescued. So people need to see drones in operation. They need to see drones helping on search and rescue missions. They need to see drones doing things done or delivering things they urgently need. So I think acceptance goes with having contact to drones, and not only hearing about drones when you listen to the news and hear about attacks during the war.
And how can this awareness be increased?
I think the awareness can be increased if we have a good ecosystem for drones in Europe, and we see applications happening in farming and in other stuff. That people need to talk about it. So I think the awareness is rising with present and with being popular and being part of everyday society.
You've talked about the use of drones in agriculture, but besides agriculture, how does the EU envision the role of drones in critical public services, such as healthcare and emergency response?
Drones will have a very important role on emergency response and on search and rescue, especially. On health issues, there might be delivery of medicine to remote areas, but we will see very soon that, for example, the old helicopters from ADAC in Germany will be replaced by eVTOLs. So these are not small drones like you know it, but they are in a way a drone category. So this will be a part of the future and of having good services for the people in the future.
I can imagine that this kind of widespread implementation will certainly require infrastructure or policy changes at the European level. What is the EU planning to do about that?
We have a big the big advantage of Europe is at the same time the big problem of Europe. We are diverse, and so we have very diverse rules in the different member states. And as this is an industry that is emerging, that has not been existing before, the rules are very fragmented. And what I want to see is a European approach on the topic, giving European rules on the services in order to be able to have the same services in all of the countries in the European Union. And at the same time, we have to make sure that those services can exist. There, the real game changer is the pricing of the services a drone needs in order to be able to fly. And if this is too expensive, the service will not happen. So we need to make sure that the cost of those services is cheap in order to make a drone infrastructure in a drone environment a reality in the future.
And so the EU market is one thing, but in terms of international cooperation, how is the EU positioning itself as a leader in setting these global standards for drone operations and technology?
Well, you have two different approaches. There's the American approach. They start to fly. There are not many rules. And then we see they have a look at, okay, what do we need to put, which rules do we need to put in place? And there's the European approach. And the European approach is we put rules in place in order to be able to enable the services, because the European approach is very cautious. And this has a lot of good advantages because we put safety first. And so there's nothing that is more important than safety. We are the region of the world, the continent, where drone operations are the most safe. We are the continent in the world where the standards are the highest, and we have procedures in place. And this is a big advantage, that a company can operate in a safe and secure manner, and can be sure that the rules that are there actually apply. And this is important if you want to do services. I think that's the real advantage of the European Union in the drone aerospace.
You mentioned how the US has a different style. How does the EU plan to address potential resistance or pushback from other countries in drone standard setting efforts?
Well, we are the first to put standards in place. So those who build drones, they comply with European standards because the European market is a big market. And so we export our standards to other parts of the world. And this brings safety to other parts of the world as well. So this is our way of doing things.
Earlier, you described how there's diversity in the EU, which can be a positive and sometimes a little bit to work through. Can you describe the challenges the EU faces in harmonizing drone regulations across its different jurisdictions?
Well, we have the problem that even if there's a rule in place on a European level, the national rules and the member states have to be adapted to that European rule. And this takes more or less time. This is more or less bureaucratic at the different member states. And this is really challenging because, drones have not been existing before. So a lot of member states, especially smaller member states, they don't know how to deal with it. So a big role of myself as member of the European Parliament is to be facilitator as well and bring people together in order to transfer knowledge. So that, for example, people from one country can learn from people from another country how rules have been implementing in those countries and vice versa. So I think this is the best way of facilitation because of the situation that we have still 27 member states and not one European body deciding for everyone.
So how does the EU balance its competitive stance in drone technology with stringent regulations that could potentially hinder innovation?
Well, listen, there's one rule that is the most important, that is safety first. And safety first applies to everything which is in the air. And this is the base of the success story of aviation. And this is to be the base of the success story of drones as well. So sure, sometimes it might be perceived as being hindering, but for me, we cannot discuss safety. So safety first, and then let's do competition. Do this its job, and let the different companies that are building drones build different style of drones, different applications, and we will see what will emerge, and we will see what will be taken up in the market. So I think that's the way we do it. But then, sure, we do categories of different drones, and we have categories from a certain weight on. You need to have a license to fly them. But this comes all from the safety first rule. So I think we have quite a good framework for drones in the European Union, and then competition makes it interesting.
One of the key concerns, of course, is privacy. So these are paramount with the increase in drone usage. What steps are being taken to prevent misuse and ensure surveillance does not infringe on individual rights?
There are very clear rules on not having drones and having cameras infringing your privacy. And those are not enshrined in the drone regulation, but in other laws concerning cameras in public spaces, concerning surveillance technology, etc. So these rules have to be applied. That's why there are, for example, it's necessary to have certain distance to houses or to residential areas so that you cannot take pictures of your neighbor in the garden in the summer. And I think it's important that those rules are enshrined, are not breached. But in any case, always people fearing that drone operations might infringe the privacy of people. It's just if they do so, they're not applying the rules. And this has to be very clear. And those drone operations cannot happen if they infringe those privacy rules.
Given all of these use cases and the general rapid evolution of drone technology, how is the EU Parliament ensuring that its legislative actions are not only reactive, but also proactive?
Very complicated because legislation cannot be as quick as innovation. So in a certain way, we are always reactive. The point is that we put a framework in place. And in this framework, the innovation can happen. So it's not necessary to adapt all the time to new innovation, but to give this framework and then to let people who know better how to do innovation than politicians how to do it. And I think what we're doing is with this framework is sometimes you need to adapt it. And then it's a procedure and it takes sometimes months, sometimes years. So it's better not to have too stringent regulations, but to give a more open framework and then see what happens.
So let's talk a bit about integrating drones into civilian airspace. Can you discuss the EU strategy here without compromising the safety of conventional aircraft?
Well, I think as drones have to be visible for aircrafts in the airspace, perhaps we should make aircrafts visible for drones as well. So this is a question of being fair in the airspace with each other. And visible does not mean that you can have a look at it, but that it's that they give their data and the flying routes and so on, so that you can, when you fly a drone, that you can have a perception of what else is up in the sky at that moment. I think that would be a good step forward.
If we figure out safety like this and have drones in the civilian airspaces, then what would be the economic implications of expanding these drone services all across Europe?
Well, this could ramp up to billions of euro of revenue of European companies, ensuring jobs, ensuring revenues, public revenues, and so at the end, our social welfare and education system. So I think it's important to have this ecosystem in place, this infrastructure in place, so that actually those services can happen and that people can make money out of it and so can create jobs out of it. I think that's the purpose of a good policies that are in place, that they support the competitiveness of our industry and thus lead to job and growth.
How might these implications vary across different sectors? Do you think it's going to help small and medium businesses compete against big enterprises?
Yeah, and this is already happening. We have a little bit of the problem at the moment that this is an emerging market, and so you need a lot of capital in order to be competitive in this market. So big companies that are already existing have a little bit of advantage at the beginning, but they are not so quick and not so adaptable as the smaller companies. We see already today that in different sectors, drone operations are emerging. Think of agriculture, for example. Think of construction, for example, where small and medium-sized enterprises use drones for their purposes. And this is not necessarily that they are in competition with bigger companies, but they create an advantage. They create added value in their company when they are in competition with other companies. So drones are an added value for those companies using it.
Speaking of capital, what partnerships is the EU forming with private sectors or international bodies to advance drone technology?
There are public-private partnerships like CSAR joint undertaking on a European level, where we put together legislators, administrations, and industry stakeholders, and they are the financing comes from all of the sides. So I think this is a good way forward in order to create a common way of creating a drone system ecosystem in the European Union.
And so finally, what ethical considerations are being discussed with the EU Parliament concerning autonomous drones and AI integration?
I mean, the most important question is and remains safety. So every time when you have an autonomous vehicle, and may it be a drone or a car, the question of safety for the people is discussed at length, and rightly so, because we have to make sure that applications are safe and that security and safety is always guaranteed. And I think this is from an ethical point of view, the most important question. Will drones replace human workforce? Maybe, but this is like every automation. So I don't think this is a real big topic. Most of the colleagues really see the advantages and the possibilities of drones flying in the European Union, giving services, creating jobs. And so the European Parliament as such is very supportive to the drone industry.
And how might these discussions shape future regulations?
Well, I would say don't do too many regulations now because we have just put in place a regulation called Single European Sky. Finally, after years of discussion, has been voted in the European Parliament and will now be adapted in the member states. So I don't think that it's about a lot of regulation and new rules or laws. Sometimes it's about doing small regulations, so no laws decided by the Parliament, but implementing acts done by the European Commission, for example. And there, this cooperation and those discussions are important between the different stakeholders, between industry, users, and regulators, so that the rules can be simple but adequate for those applying those rules.
All right, so the last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this?
Oh, I don't know. If I would not be a member of the European Parliament, probably I would have become a farmer in Germany at the farm of my father or my parents. But honestly, I don't know. You cannot undo history. So I'm a member of Parliament now, and I would like to stay after the European elections.